what can I say? It was a hell of an end to honestly one of the best, probably the best documentary as far as basketball concerned. I've seen. We're gonna start with episode 9. Just touch on the Reggie Miller battles early in his career. Just trying to establish himself and letting Jordan know I'm not afraid. I'm here to compete, which is kind of different than what we see today, where guys are over the top with the respect. I mean, you can be respect, but still still can't compete. So, what are your thoughts on that? Reggie just being determined to let Michael Jordan know that he's here and he's going to have to deal with him. We can start with you, Wilson.
I mean, I thought it was great. Like you mentioned, it's kind of one of the things we rarely see today, especially off the early, right? Um, you love what it turned into. Anybody that had success against the Bulls, it first started with the fact that you couldn't be intimidated. Um, like it started from a mental standpoint before anything physical even happened. And what I liked about Reggie, yeah, it was a preseason game. Yeah, Mike still got him, but he didn't waver from it. He just continued to get sharp and got better and better. And it was cool. I know it was just for a little bit. Just, in this 3-point era that we're in, watching somebody who really went to work doing what they do at a very high level. You got so many people these days taking threes that aren't the caliber of shooter that Reggie is, right? And I think a lot of times what we're seeing, and this is not the knock, the Golden State guys, that pair, because that's a hell of a duo out there. But just watching other guys before them that sometimes get overlooked now that we're in this 3-point happy age. Reggie was a bad man, dog. Like it was fun watching Reggie go to work, and the fact that he didn't back down. So it was good seeing like the origins of that.
All right, go ahead, Raymond.
Yeah, first and foremost, we got to give Reggie his props. He's one of the most underappreciated players ever in my eyes. When people had those top 2 guard conversations, he's rarely mentioned, which, 1 and 2 is a lot. We all know that. But, Reggie's name needs to be thrown in there. Just he's a fierce competitor, highly skilled player, highly effective. He didn't back down from anybody. Like you said, he let Mike know from jump, I'm here, and you're going to deal with me till one of us bow out the game. And he held to that word. And it showed even at the last stage, he almost got Mike up out of there, and he said his intention was to retire Michael Jordan, and to push them to a game 7. And Mike being one of the only guys, I feel like that could have elevated his team to a victory against a very, very good Pacers team. Like, man, it just shows a testament to Mike, but it just shows you how good Reggie was too. And like I was having a conversation earlier with some of my friends, like, and he brought up the fact that Mike made us devalue or underappreciate a lot of great guys. But I'm like, no, I realized how great those guys were, but it made me realize how much greater Mike was because he dominated that era that was just littered with Hall of Fame great players. But yeah, Reggie, he's an animal, and he deserves his respect.
You are now.
I think Reggie was actually one of my favorite players growing up, even though I was a Knicks fan, but we won't get into that right now. Highly underrated, underappreciated, undervalued. He's one of the best clutchers in playoff history, period. We don't give him his props. He was a much better defensive player than people give him credit for. Great clutch player, just made big shots, big plays, and he didn't back down from anybody. And even though he may have been skinny, it doesn't seem like he was very physically imposing. His mental toughness was up there with a lot of the great players of all time. Like I said, I like the fact that they really gave him his roses in this documentary at the end, the second to the last episode, because people don't really realize how good he was. And he played in an era where guys were scoring in the 80s and 90s, slower pace. So those shots value is a lot higher than now, where you're getting so many more possessions and taking so many more shots. So those threes he hit were more meaningful than I think what goes into today's era, in a much more physical time of play as well. So I like the fact that he got a chance to speak in the documentary, and he was one of the guys that Jordan had fits with because Reggie never made it easy for Mike. And he wasn't one of those type of guys that was easy for Mike to guard because he ran around so much. But he was more than just a jump shooter. Like, we don't even talk about he had a great triple threat game. His footwork was impeccable. He would post up smaller guys. He was 6'7" and long. Like, all this stuff gets lost in the shuffle when we kind of forget about all these great players from the 90s. And a recurring theme is it wasn't that they weren't great, because Mike was that much better than them. It's like kind of like the Mayweather effect, where he's so good at what he does, you kind of don't realize that it's not that his competition is bad. He's just a step ahead of everybody else. So I think Mike did that. Like, we can sit here and talk about a lot of great two guards and small forwards that Mike went up against that didn't get their proper due. And part of that is because they didn't win championships, which has kind of happened on other great players' watches.
You, Coach.
I mean, just piggybacking on what everybody else said, it shows that 90s basketball, skilled guys, a lot of guys that didn't win championships because of MJ. Reggie, he wasn't just a jump shooter. For guys that, I had a conversation with somebody this past week that said, that's what he was. Nah, go watch film, go watch tape. Reggie was so much more than a jump shooter. Like Arnell said, he could play defense. He always was moving around the court. Those Pacers teams, as you can see in the documentary, they challenged the Bulls, pushing the game 7. I mean, the Davis brothers, Young, Rose, Smits. I mean, those guys were good. Mark Jackson leading the team. And then Larry Bird. I mean, come on now. Larry Bird is that coach, 90s basketball was something to watch, man. If people wasn't around to see it, go back and watch these games, man. It just shows once again how great Michael was, from Barkley to Ewing to, the Pacers and Stockton and Malone, all those guys that he didn't allow to win championships. So, Reggie didn't fear Mike, but like you said, he never called him Michael Jordan. He was Black Jesus. He was a black cat, that's what he was, and Michael proved that, he respected Reggie. He respected those Pacers team. You could see it, but he didn't back down from it. He didn't fear it. He just went out and took care of business. But hats off to the Pacers that pushed Mike to, his last game 7.
For me, I just like guys. I give ultimate respect to guys that competed against Jordan. I used to hate to see guys just kind of like, you could just tell they were in awe and just kind of allow Mike to do what he do. I like the guys like, Reggie and Joe Dumas and John Starks who would battle him and make Jordan have to elevate his game even more to have to overcome him. And that's why he's the greatest of all time in my eyes, because whenever he was challenged in any way, he always elevated to beat that challenge. And I haven't seen any other player do that as consistently or nearly as much. But like y'all said, Reggie was his biggest strength was his shooting. That's what spoke out the loudest. That's what you see. But no, he was a much more all-around player than what he got credit for. He looked skinny, but he was strong as hell. That looks can be deceiving. Just because you're not bulky and deezed up, that's what a lot of kids think today when they see players. Man, they're so much bigger and stronger. I'm like, nah, we've been right there on the court. Just because you look it, we call those beach bodies. It look good, but that don't mean you strong. You know what I'm saying? Because if they were, they wouldn't be breaking down so much. You know what I mean? They'd be playing all 82, would be no problem. Reggie did all that playing all 82, and he delivered, man. And he pushed him to the max, man. I love the fact that he came in and was like, no, I'm gonna make my name too. And I just feel like when you compete against the best, man, and even though you may fall short, I mean, my thing is, what do you have to lose? Nobody really expects you to win anyway. You might get lucky and get them up out of there, like they were on the verge of doing. So why not compete? Why just give it to them from the beginning? I just never understood that. And you can respect players. Like I see a lot of players of the day tweeting, talking about, man, they were scared of them because they gave them too much respect. You can respect somebody and still compete against them. That's the difference. A lot of dudes today just disrespect, and I think that's dangerous because you don't prepare like you should. When you just coming in like, man, this player trash. You hear that a lot. This player trash. Okay. To me, when I hear that means you scared, because that means you're not willing. It's going to be a fight by even saying that off the jump, and you're not doing everything you can behind the scenes to be ready to battle. And they were ready to battle, and that's why they took them 7 games. One of the few teams to do it during that run. So hats off to the Pacers, man. That was a dangerous team, man. I mean, they were in the mix for the next few years. I mean, they got to the finals again, lost to Shaq and Kobe. You know what I mean? So it was that was a tough team to beat. We're gonna stick with the Pacers on the Eastern Conference Finals battle. Jordan ended up saying that was the toughest team they faced, other than the Bad Boys. Just what were your thoughts on that? We're gonna start with you, Raymond.
Yeah, I mean, it's that's the ultimate sign of respect right there, because we know how hard they had to fight to eventually conquer the Pistons back in the day. But like the Pacers team was extremely dangerous. Rick Smits they be talking about players are unicorns now.
7-4, yeah.
That's a unicorn right there. Like, I mean, you've heard Shaq talk about how much problems Rick Smits used to give him. Like, so, and then of course you got a player like Reggie, who, I mean, on the level of if they need a bucket at the end of the game, and if he get the ball, it's the other team pretty much just chalk it up. He's on pretty much on the level with Mike in that regard, with the clutch shots and in the mental toughness. And again, you had the Davis brothers just banging you down low. Young Jalen Rose, man, they were loaded.
Chris Mullin,
a season
Travis
Chris
Best.
Mullin, man, like. So I mean, it's for the Bulls to overcome them at that time. You know, they were old, they were older. Like the people don't take into account the mental aspect of them just being drained after everything that happened, not only playing but dealing with the stuff with the front office and all that. And they're just really like, we're trying to get this done because we know this is our last go round. And the Pacers push them to the max. I mean, it's a lot of teams would have lost to them. Like, and Mike he's just the deciding factor, man. That's just that nuke that the Bulls had to drop. So, I mean, yeah, that Pacers team, they just had bad timing. Then, like you said, a couple years later down the road, they faced another vicious duo in Shaq and Kobe. So, and they pushed them to 6 games. So, I mean, yeah, that's that team right there. They just bad timing and bad luck.
Go ahead, Arnell.
Well, I mean, Reggie made a comment where he said they were the better team, and that might have been true. But the Bulls had the best player, and that was the difference in that series. And those Pacers teams throughout the '90s were always tough. It was just a bad matchup for the Bulls. They had someone that Michael had to actually guard. Pippen had to play defense. Chris Mullin and Jalen Rose had a good bench. And you had Mark Jackson. You bring Travis Best off the bench. And we forget Travis Best was a pretty solid player at this time. And the Bulls in general had issues with quick little point guards. And he's a quick little point guard. So, like, Indiana just was a bad matchup for the Bulls. They shot the ball well. They were physical. They could play, like, different sort of games. They could be finesse. They could be fast. They can go big. And, like, someone like Rick Smits, he's a perennial all-star now. The reason why he doesn't get the accolades he should have gotten is because when he played, there were still dinosaurs in the NBA. There was Shaq, David Robinson, Ewing, Alonzo Mourning, Dikembe Mutombo. It's hard to get in that All-Star game. There's only so many spots when you were center. So he's a guy, if he was born a little later, he might have made more All-Star teams and had different numbers. But he was tough to guard. I seen him give Ewing fits, Shaq fits, and the Bulls didn't have a real great center at that time. So he was a matchup problem for them. Then you had to deal with Reggie, Mark Jackson, who's not going to turn the ball over, great floor director, one of the best assist guys in NBA history. They're a tough team, and they're a team that I think people don't really give proper due to. And, like, when we keep hearing this, when we have the debate that Michael didn't play against anybody, like, when you see the Indiana team they had to deal with, it's like, are you serious? I feel like that Indiana team is much better than the teams that LeBron had to deal with. If we're gonna have a debate about that, be totally objective, those Pacers team was deeper. So that's just. I mean, what's the kid that went to Georgetown? That was on that Indiana Pacers team. Hibbert or Smith? Really? Like, we keep going down the list. Like, really? So that's just my opinion on that. Like, the Indiana team they just had bad timing, in my opinion. If they just ran up against some beasts in the Bulls, You know, in Orlando that one year, and then with the Lakers when they finally did make it to the finals.
Go ahead, Coach.
Physicality. It showed 90s basketball. They had Rick Smiths. I mean, we already know the names. Rick Smiths, the Davis boys. Strong. Powerful, strong, big, hard to move. And we got to realize at that time, you had Tony Kukoc actually starting over Rodman. If you really remember that, Rodman didn't start. Rodman was a sixth man, but he played starter minutes. So beginning of games, you would see Indy off to those, nice little leads because you didn't really have a defender on the floor besides Pippen and Jordan. So, once again, they had multiple positions that you could throw in there. Like Arnell said, Travis Best was a, quick little point guard, could get anywhere on the court, used to give teams fits. But once again, it just showed you how great Jordan was, and those Bulls teams, overcame a tough matchup. And Indy, they gave the Bulls matchup problems, but they also had a coach that understood the game. We got Larry Bird. He put them in those positions. He understood the game better than almost any player or coach out there. So what he designed, what he came up, to slow them down, to slow the game down, actually, it worked. It was working. But once again, Indy, they might have had the better overall team, maybe, but you had the best player on the floor was playing for that team in the red, and it showed.
Go ahead, Wilson.
There's nothing really much else to add here. But nah, it was the depth of that Pacers team. Just once again, the depth and the quality of the depth. We talk about the bad boys and their physicality, but like they had to muck it up to better their chances. With the Pacers, they were just the physicality was an added bonus. That was a very skilled team. Even their quote unquote goons were skilled. The Davis dudes got busy. It was more than just being physical. They could score in the post, little turnaround jumpers, some middies here. And the other thing is, the thing I like the most is the Bulls, the Doberman defense, they preyed so much on people's turnovers. I think Arnell brought up, when you have that many quality ball handlers, it's about Mark, it's about Travis, Jalen, such a luxury to have against a team like the Bulls. Somebody with that type of size to see over the size they had on the perimeter. A lot of people didn't have a ball handler, a capable ball handler at that size at the wing. Pippen was a little bit different. Didn't see too many things like him often, where they were just like, all right, Jalen, bring it up. Cool. Get the offense going. Cool. So it was just fun that they got there doing. I hope the biggest thing people took away from the Pacers how skilled that group was. They were so freaking skilled.
I mean, for me, the difference was experience. It was championship experience. The Bulls have been there and done that before. This was the Pacers' first time kind of, cracking through, so to speak. And the reason why they look so old, you also got to add in the fact that the Bulls were going for a third straight title. I mean, they played more games than any team in the league the last couple of years. And then you got to also add in not just the physicality with the Pacers, but they had 10 players 6'7" and above, between 6'7" and 7'4". That's a big team. So you going in there, you don't have the same lanes out on the perimeter. It's length that can bother the passing lanes, bother the shot. The rebound awards down there. I mean, just the Davis brothers and Rick Smith alone. Rick Smith 7'4", Antonio Davis is 6'9", then Dale Davis 6'11". That right there, that front line, you don't and they're not just some skinny dudes. They some grown men. You know what I'm saying? It's different than what we say today, where it's a bunch of kids trying to emerge in that. It's grown men. They know how to play, know what they are, and they know when they get down. So in those type of games, man, if you don't have the experience, it's hard to win. And you saw when in Game 7, even though the Pacers was up, Steve Kerr hit a clutch three that broke their spirits, and the Bulls were still down because they didn't know they didn't understand how to to take a team out, so to speak. And that's the hardest thing about the Bulls. They're not gonna quit, obviously, with those guys over there, especially the guy. But why are you quitting? Why are you getting broken down? You down too. You know, that's just mental toughness and experience. That 1-3 just took them out of the game. Then the Bulls just went on a run and took them out. And that was the difference in the game. So Reggie can believe he's the better team, but I never believe that this ain't the NCAA tournament. When you got 7 games to decide a winner, whoever wins, that's the better team. Talent don't mean nothing. That don't mean you're the better team. That just means you might be more talented. But I'm not gonna say you're the better team because you had 7 games to get 4 out of 7. So, you know, he can believe that, but the results say different. John Stockton, we're gonna move to the finals. Well, not quite to the finals, but John Stockton, he don't get the respect he deserves either. The clutch shot to beat Houston to send Utah to their first finals, because you know Utah was right there for so many years. Western Conference Finals, lose to the Lakers, lose to the Sonics. They were right there on the brink for years. Then he finally hit that clutch shot and get them over the hump and get them to the finals over Houston, with, you know, with Barkley and Drexler and Dream. I mean, that's that's tough, man. Just talk about them finally getting over the hump and you know, getting to the finals. We're gonna start with you, Arnell.
I mean, the West was tough at that time, and most of the Western Conference guys in the era, like, they always used to beat up on each other just to get there. So, like, you had to go through some teams. And I think at that time the East and the West was more balanced than it is now, obviously. But speaking of, like, giving guys due, we really didn't talk much about Chris Mullin, who, you know, is only like a Hall of Famer, top 50 talent, dream team player. But that Utah team was just tough. Had a good structured system, a great coach in Jerry Sloan. What more can you say about them? They finally got their opportunity, and I think one of the reasons why they probably didn't win the championship, because they were much better than people give them credit. Like, people say, "Oh, you beat the Utah Jazz, not that good." Like, they had 2 Hall of Famers. Karl Malone and John Stockton are arguably top 5 of their positions. Period. Not even the debate, not a conversation. So not to respect them as an opponent in the finals, I think it's just something that a lot of young kids is just disrespectful, in my opinion. So I don't understand why, because they don't really watch the games. They watch the highlights. And because Utah wasn't sexy, they weren't flashy, it was basic good basketball, that gets kind of like overlooked. And they just got the job done. And I think if they had a little more experience getting to the finals, it would have been different. Even John mentioned that, like, their first time being there, it was an adjustment. I think that's why they probably gave the Bulls a better run the second time. But Mike and Pippen and Phil having that experience, I think, gave them the outcome of being champions both those years.
All right, go ahead, Coach.
I just showed that they weren't intimidated. You saw Stockton say that he didn't understand how, you know, guys can look at, you know, guys on the court and be intimidated by them. You know, why even step on the court if you're not ready to play? And, you know, don't fear a guy. You know, you respect him. Coach told me a long time ago, you know, respect all, fear none. You know, you walk on the court, be ready to go at him. You know, no matter if it's Jordan or somebody, the 12th man on the bench. But those Utah teams were good, man. And once again, you know, Cardell, I swear you like digging it in when you keep talking about my Barkley guy, man. He was on that team, that, you know, that Houston team, and Stockton hit the shot over Barkley. Barkley didn't come out strong enough on defense. Malone was holding Drexler in that great pick. Oh gosh, you know, bringing back some bad memories in the 90s. But, you know, yeah. So, you know, hey, Stockton.
Couldn't move quick enough on defense, man.
You know, so hey, look, he couldn't. He really couldn't. But you know, Stockton, Malone, Hornacek, you know, those guys were good, man. They could shoot the ball. They understood the game. Karl Malone's, you know, mid-range jumper. I mean, goodness gracious. You know? So they broke through. Had a great coach, and Jerry Sloan. No, he didn't. It was almost like, you know, Patrick Ewing. You know, that little mid-range jumper. People don't give, you know, these bigs back in the day a lot of credit for hitting these shots. Rick Smith, you know, they could shoot the ball.
Great face-up players.
Yeah. So Stockton, Malone, they were ready. You know, they just took it to the next level. You know, the West was strong back in the day. Oh man, those teams were good back in the day, man. And you know, Utah, a lot of teams pushed them and they kept around. They just wasn't ready. You know, even though they played them, you know, to, you know, 6 games, they wasn't ready. You know, Jordan was still Jordan. still on top of his game, and they did what they had to do.
All right, go ahead, Wilson.
Yeah, Stockton. I'm trying to find the flaw with it. Why people gloss over him in terms of what you want from a point guard. He legitimately did the job so well, and I can't really think of the place that he lacked at in terms of running the one, having your pulse on your team at all times with both ends. No, he doesn't get enough credit for, but how many times he hit so many timely shots for that team, so many big shots, time and time again, and it'd be after he's facilitating for a brick where everyone else is getting involved, everyone's getting shots. Oh, we need something, deliver. Oh, we need something else again, deliver. Um, just a heck of a player, and coach. Not that I don't want to harp on anybody too much. You talk about you got Barkley and everything else, but like, yeah, that pick and roll used to bother everybody. But the fact that like we're watching everyone run it in the league now, these dudes had that thing down.
Yes.
It was like 5D chess how they were running it. You knew it was coming. There was nothing you could do about it. You scheme it a different way. They got three more answers to it, and you just had to take it. Um,
Mm.
and then have Hornacek out there as an outlet after you're dealing with that freaking pick and roll. You guys already mentioned Malone, the mid range, killing people. You already saw what he was physically, and to have the skill too, to not just take advantage of you physically, but okay, you giving me some room, foul line, bang, 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 over and over. It was just such a strong team. But like Cardell pointed out, like there's something about being there before, and that's one of the toughest things with getting the Bulls out the way is they were there before. And again, to kind of give a little bit more credit to them at the same time is not only were they there before, they weren't trying to revert to what it was. They remember what that felt like before they were there. The defeat, the falling backwards. They weren't willing to. They didn't really give any space there. So, um, but yeah, I love that Stockton said what he said. Like, nah, we ain't scared of y'all. We're just gonna play good basketball. Whatever happens, happens. But yeah, from a basketball standpoint, yeah, Utah they missed some opportunities. Missed some opportunities.
Go ahead, Raymond.
Man, it just must have sucked for them to go through that Western Conference gauntlet, then to have to face Mike and the Bulls in the finals. I mean, wow, you went through all this, you finally break through on a last second shot, and your reward is playing this juggernaut. But yes, when people get to talking crazy about John Stockton, and then you hear guys like Gary Payton and Baron Davis and players like that say how Stockton is the hardest person they've ever had to play basketball against, I'm going to listen to those guys over the people sitting at home. Um, the game just speaks for itself. I mean, like Wilson said, there wasn't a flaw to him in regards to doing his job. I mean, he took care of the basketball. He made shots when he needed to. He set the table for his teammates. Didn't turn the ball over. Played tough defense. It was cerebral. I mean, what more do you want? And Malone as well. Like that's a terrible tandem right there because Malone was a problem, a huge problem. I mean, what more could you want from a skill standpoint from your four man? But yeah, that's when teams like that are discredited. The person delivering that message that lets me know where they are in regards to intellect and game basketball because there's no way you can watch that team and feel like they weren't worthy competition for anyone. I mean, Malone was an MVP 97, and the following year they had the best record in the league. So, I mean, I'm trying to figure out where they lacked in regards to basketball.
I mean, I think what hurts Stockton is, the ignorant, evaluation. He don't pass the eye test as far as looking like he can hoop. He a white boy with Daisy Duke shorts, 6'1". He ain't looking like a freak of nature or whatnot. So you know how it is. If a dude roll up like that in the gym around here, dudes, I'm like, we about to murder him. But it ain't gonna go like that. Not with him. You know what I'm saying? And he, like I said, he didn't have a flaw in his game, and A lot of times people evaluate players based, they try to value players based on how many points they average. And I'm like, my man didn't even need a lot of shots to tear you up. Like I appreciate players that could dominate and don't even score a point. And he could do that. He could just tear you up with 15 assists. People don't understand, if I don't score and I dish out 15 assists, I'm still bust you up for 30 minimum.
And lock you up.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So you have to deal with that. You have to stop that. You know what I mean? And then, Gary Payton said it best. My man only getting 10 shots, he making 7 of them. That means you have to be on point on defense. Those are the harder dudes to guard than the volume scorers that's gonna take 30 shots to get 30. That's good. Fine, you're inefficient, you're taking shots from your team. We can handle that. But when this dude, when a dude can make 6, 7 out of 10 shots, you have to be on point. Otherwise, he's going to tear you up, and that's just normal for him. So what if he gets hot? He's making all of them, and then he lock you up. Then he's getting steals and taking charges and stuff. Like you saw in a couple of those plays in the finals, he was the one stripping Mike and stuff, going left of the court, hitting, getting game sealing layups and stuff like that, getting to the line. He was the one on 98. We gonna get to that when he hit They forget about that part. They always go to the Jordan part. But Utah was up 3. Stockton hit that late clutch 3 under a minute left. Cold-blooded on to get them the lead, and then that's why Mike is Mike. But we're gonna get to that later. But I just think it's just the ignorance of the eye test, man. People just size you up by how you look and just assume. But Stockton to me is a top 3, 4 point guard all time with Magic, Isaiah. You want to put Big O in there as a point guard, which I think people always overlook. You got to put him in that mix. So he's definitely top 4 all time, period. And I know Steph don't want chips, but I love Steph. But Steph don't bring everything to the table that Stockton did. Even though he won a ring, so you just gotta give respect where it's due. We're gonna move on to the start of the '97 finals. Jordan being motivated that Karl Malone won MVP, and also telling us a story we never heard about. Brian Russell talking ish to him when he was retired. When Jordan was talking to Karl Malone and John Stockton, talking about why you retired, I was ready to lock you up and bust you up. And Jordan like, man, Karl, you better talk to this kid. Like and Karl tried to save him like many other, but Brian mouth got him in trouble, man. So oh man, it is what it is. We're gonna start with you, Coach, man. Just what are your thoughts on Jordan being motivated by both situations?
Sometimes you got to know who to talk to and who not to talk to. You come on, man. Come on, Russell. I mean, why? Just why? Stockton, he could say that. Malone, you can say that. But a rookie, and obviously, he was playing, but come on, man, you just don't do it. Certain guys, you just don't do that to. But, hey, Mike's going to get motivated about anything. You walk past Mike, don't speak, he's motivated the next game. You celebrate, he's motivated the next game. So it doesn't take much, but once again, with Malone winning that MVP. And once again, hey, we have to bring back the MVP during the playoffs, man. All these the award show for the NBA, okay, that's cool and all, but the MVP, that needs to be announced in the playoffs, point blank with the fans. Like, come on, this award show is killing it. To see them get the MVP in the playoffs, that's a special feeling. The crowd, oh gosh, that's like the ring ceremony almost. That first game of the next year. Let the fans be a part of it. Not an award show on TNT. It's just terrible, man. I can't stand it. But hey, Mike is Mike. He did what he had to do. You talk, he backed it up, point blank.
Go ahead, Will.
Just stop. Just leave it alone. It's not funny. Clearly, he doesn't take jokes well. I don't know what to tell you. By that time, they'd won a three-peat. You were aware of it. I'm sure you may have heard a story or something, or seen a clip somewhere of if it's the type of dude that makes up stuff to be mad at people about things he made up, outside of hey, how you doing, or just nothing at all, what you talking to him for? Secondly, you're the guy. That's not Carl's problem. That's not John's problem. That's not Jeff's problem. That's your problem. Shut up. Shut up. Just shut up. I really don't understand it. Like it's getting to just weird levels of y'all have to be aware. Leave it alone. You got Reggie Miller. Like it's Reggie Miller. Like I don't call the dude by his government issue name. We just learned how to spell your name correctly tonight. Chill out. Like
One of the biggest instigators, trash talkers ever. Even he humbled himself. Was like, hold on, man, I don't even mess with how this play. So go ahead, Raymond.
Like Wilson said, leave Mike alone. Like it's not worth it. I mean, yeah, I'm sure he thought he was safe because he was retired, but you're never safe. Just like who was that learned late on? Corey Benjamin, after Mike retired the second time, was talking that trash and got cooked in the practice facility. I mean, leave that man alone.
Look around you. What do you see?
Exactly. Like,
hey, look up. What do you think?
And I mean, Utah was just marked for death that series. I mean, he already had the fuel from Malone winning MVP, and then this psycho remembered some trash talk from 3-4 years prior.
John Wick.
Yeah, leave that guy alone. Don't kill the dog. Don't mess with his wife. Leave the car alone. Just let him be. Like, what was the trainer said? It's like when the lion is just laying on the rock in the Serengeti or whatever. Leave him alone. He's chilling. Like at any moment he can get up and maul you, but why would you provoke that? Just let it ride, man. Like, people will learn at some point. Like, and Miles Bridges was talking trash recently about wanting to play Mike 1-on-1. I still wouldn't try him at 57. Leave him alone. Like, cause yeah, I'm done. Leave that man alone. Your life ain't worth it.
Go ahead on that.
I mean, young, dumb, and foolish at that point in time. Like, why would you give this man extra bullets? He already comes fully loaded anyway. Don't give him extra rounds. Like, I just don't understand. Like, you seen what he's done, right? You've seen it, right? We've all seen it. It's like we all know that. Like, we've all played ball, so we play against those certain guys, and someone on your team starts yipping at them. You're like, bro, he ain't the one. Just leave him alone. He's not the dude. That was Mike. Don't talk to him. Leave him alone. Because he doesn't need extra motivation. He was already pissed because Malone won the MVP. He even said that Malone deserved it, but he's going to show you that he felt he was the MVP. So I don't understand what Brian was thinking. And as you can see on the shirt, it didn't go well. It didn't go well for you at all in that series. I mean, one game, Mike scored over 50% of the Bulls' points. Game 6, the following final. So I just don't understand the dude, And Mike's going to remember everything because he used anything for ammunition, any and everything. He's always been like that. So it's like, you guys don't do your homework? Like, leave the man. I don't know what more to say. Like, I went last. Everyone kind of touched on what was going on here. And then when Malone, Mike always liked to outplay the other team's best player. That was just his thing. He did the Barkley, did the Clyde, did the Peyton and Kemp. So he was always looking for something to give him that extra push. And Malone played well in both series, but just not well enough. He didn't make the big shots that Mike did.
I mean, how many stories we need? You recently heard Kevin Garnett talk about the Isaiah Ryder joint, and you notice it's always the young boys that be bucking that he like, and then the best like, chill, like, and like KG said, I felt it, what I'm saying? I felt it, what I'm saying? He had to get him, what I'm saying? I mean, it's I don't know, like, and youngest take that to get somebody, you gotta know what you're dealing with. Like I'm gonna go back to what I said before. You gotta give the proper respect so you can be the most prepared for what you're about to deal with. And it's like youngins just don't understand. They just come in there brash and just thinking like, man, I'm here too, man. All that. It's no strategy. It's no thinking with them. They just acting, but they don't understand the consequences that's about to come until it's already done. And now they're answering the reporters about why they got torched and why they got embarrassed. And now most don't even recover. You got guys like KG and Kobe that kind of did it, but to me, Brian Russell never recovered. You see about when Jordan hit the game winner in game 1 and how he read Brian Russell talking about he played defense. He's off balance because he's leaning so far forward on the balls of his feet. So
Me
quick
too.
move left, he's off balance, stumbling, and he already knew that. And then obviously Brian Russell ain't just that strategy for what we're gonna talk about later because it kept happening. So I mean, he's the ultimate killer, dog. He's the greatest scorer ever. Period. You know, that's why he got the highest average in the playoffs and regular season, scoring wise. I mean, he reads those little things and uses it to his advantage. And you talking trash, and you can't even stay on balance on defense to even try to guard him. It makes no sense, man. So, hey, man, he paid dearly for that. But obviously, Jordan hit the game winner in game one. We all know how that played out over Brian Russell. But talk about the play of Karl Malone and John Stockton in games 3 and 4 in the '97 finals. Them basically forcing a tie series and going back to Utah for game 5. We're gonna start with you, Wilson.
You said me?
Yeah.
I mean, we got to see why that was one of the best tandems NBA history. They went to work. You let them get on a roll. It is what it is. And the other thing, we talked about earlier, just their mental. They weren't even thinking about failure or anything. Like, it was survival at that point. Like, because they understood the last thing, like I think Reggie had said in that series before, they went down. The last thing you want to do is go down, be down that final game to them. You know what I'm saying? You don't want that on the table. So Utah did everything in their power to make sure that we're still here, and credit them for the type of work they put in back-to-back games. It's one thing to do it once against the Bulls. It's another thing to do it twice, especially in the postseason. Carl went bonkers, and I'm sure I know we were just talking about with John. Someone you don't even need a fine-tooth comb to go over what he did in both of those games. His imprints are all over that, guaranteed. Because again, when we are just talking about the Pacers, now you have to be at a guard as a guard, and they didn't have as many secondary ball handlers over there in Utah to deal with that perimeter trio of Mike, Pip, Harp. It's ridiculous. And John was handling that without an issue. Games 3 and 4 to keep that thing moving like a well-oiled machine. We saw a lot of those early outlet passes from a point guard off rebounds, just dropping them things out the sky. It was just beautiful. Yeah, it's why those are Hall of Famers.
Go ahead, Randall.
That's huge, man, because you need both of those games to have a chance. You come out of that 3-1, it's basically over. So for them to respond that way after dropping the first two, I mean, it's like Wilson said, it shows why they are who they are and why they stand where they stand in NBA history. Those are two of the best at their position, not debatable. And I mean, just to rise to the occasion against that team, it says a lot because a lot of people fold in that situation, and to snatch those 2 games at home, I can only imagine the pressure they were under. Because like I said, you drop one of those and you come out of that thing 3-1, it's a death sentence. So it just shows their mettle and their fortitude, just to respond the way they did.
Go ahead, Arnell.
Well, it goes back to a reoccurring theme. They weren't intimidated or scared of the Bulls. They respected them and they understood what they were going against, but they felt like they were just as good, if not better. And they knew that they had to win these games to keep the series alive. You don't want to go down that many games. There's no coming back from that. And it just goes back to like how great Stockton and Malone were. Like, to put it in perspective, like Malone was like, if Amari Stoudemire was healthy, was more skilled, and played defense. And I think if you explain that to the young players now, maybe they're like, that's how good he was. Post up, face up, 15 feet in, go left, go right. Like, he was running the floor. He was great at running the floor. Great at, knew how he could slip the pick. He could pop out. He was just a phenomenal player. I only thing I take away from him, I think he was as great as some other power forwards and creating his own offense. I think Stockton was responsible for a lot of that. And then Stockton, like, I'm watching the highlights of the game, and like he was throwing his passes, it was so precise. Like the team wasn't, like the Bulls weren't even playing defense. They were just right on the money, perfect. timing was impeccable. Like that's a skill. Like either you have that or you don't. You know, and he hit timely shots. Like every time Utah needed a big steal, a big stop, it seemed like Stockton was involved. Whether he was stripping Mike or stripping Pippen or stripping Rodman or whoever it was, and then throwing the outlet to the guy for a layup. I think they won two of those games off him making a great defensive play and finding someone for an easy score.
Right.
So like I said, like those two guys, you know, easily top 5 of their positions, not a debate. And Jeff Hornacek, someone that doesn't get there, his proper due. I think he shot
another
pretty
sniper.
much. He shot over
50% for his career. Yeah, from 3.
50% from the field. Like the guy, pretty much, if you left him open, he was scoring. So guys like, oh, well, Michael didn't have to guard anybody. Guys like that shoot so well, you can't make mistakes because they're gonna make you pay every time. You know, even I like the Brian Russell thing. Like people like, oh, well, Jordan, there was no one that could guard him. Like Brian Russell was his size, if not bigger. Shannon Anderson guarded him a lot.
6'8".
So Hornacek was more or less guarding Scottie Pippen. He wasn't really guarding Mike unless it was a switch. So we get all these like, you know, these fans talking about, oh, Mike was killing a bunch of plumbers. Like John Stockton and Jeff Hornacek would destroy you guys. You don't want no parts of that smoke. Now, Jeff Hornacek is one of those guys, a great combo guard, born a little too early. If he was born now with his skill set, he makes a few more All-Star games. He scores a few more points per game. So like, and not making like an error war, but like, if you don't really if you don't actually watch the games, just looking at stats and highlights is not really giving these players that credit on how great they were. And these were low-scoring games. So that means you have to be even more efficient.
Yep. Go ahead, Coach.
Hall of Famers. I mean, honestly, enough said. What did we expect? You know, they didn't bow down. You know, just because 23 was on the other side. You know, those are Hall of Famers over there. Those guys knew how to win. They knew how to play the game. You know, you lost 2 games. You were on the road. Okay. You know, what they always say is it doesn't start, you know, until you win on somebody else's home court or whatever. But, you know, hey, they had their 2. Bulls had their 2 games. They won. You know, Utah came back and handled business. They had the next 2 at their home and they won. And then game 4 was a defensive battle. I mean, in the 70s, you beat the Chicago Bulls playing Utah defense and holding them to what, like 73, 74 points, whatever that final score was. Hey, you did what you did. You know, Stockton double-digit assists both games, 3 and 4. Karl Malone double both games, 3 and 4. They showed up and they did what they had to do. So hats off to them. You know, they did what they were supposed to do.
Sure. The flu game. You want to talk about the performance, but 5 dudes delivering pizzas to the hotel room. That's wild, man. I don't know, man.
We got to rename the flu game to the food poisoning game.
You know what I mean?
They all wanted to see Michael. Maybe all 5 of them wanted to meet Michael Jordan. Who knows?
Yeah, okay. 5 dudes outside my door. I'm bringing the hammer. I'm keeping it real right then and there. Like, what's going on? And it's not the hangover game for you youngins trying to say he was drunk playing. I mean, boy, this social media era, boy, I be tell they make up anything. But yeah.
Sounds good on the surface.
Yeah, exactly. But man, just talk about his will and his performance to still help. I mean, to jeopardize his health to play to win the championship. You know, that was just honestly to me the deciding game on the road and on the road. At Utah, I try to tell youngins, Utah back then was hell. I remember the games where doing warm-ups, they had a little decibel meter, and Pippen and all those guys would just have their fingers in it. It was so loud, and then so Rockets like, there's no home court like that. Matter of fact, I think the NBA outlawed amping up the sound in the arena because of that. You know what I'm saying? It became ear piercing stuff. So they're like, y'all not.
Was that because of the Kings?
Huh?
Yeah, that was the Kings.
Because of the Kings.
Kings took it after them, but yeah, it started with the Jazz. They took the idea from them, but plus, you know, they brought the cowbells. They was doing all types of stuff. But yeah, they ain't had that in Utah. It was just straight noise. But just talk about his performance and the will, because they don't give that man enough credit for what that performance was all about. We're gonna start with you, Rain.
Like you said, they try to minimize that so much. First of all, if anybody has ever had food poisoning before, you can't even get out of bed. that man played in an NBA Finals game. Not only did he play, he played damn near the whole game and had 38 points in a must win. Like, see, this is the thing about Mike. No matter what, he sees the opportunity. Like, it's not always about a closeout game. It's games in between that you need to win, to put your team in control of the series, and that's one of them. They had just dropped 2 in a row. Utah wins that game 3 in a row. They got momentum on their side. They're confident. They can go in for the kill. And Mike got food poisoning at the worst possible time. And he fought through that. Like, and to play that way, like if he has food poisoning or whatever, he comes out, he plays, he doesn't perform well, and they lose the game. It's okay. Well, he gave it a shot. Under those circumstances. But we talking about Mike. He came out and he rose to the occasion and he put his team on his back. So that's, man, I couldn't imagine. Like, some people can't even function if they got a little headache or something. Like, food poisoning is crippling. Like, I have no idea where he got the strength from, but only thing on his mind is winning, and he pushed his body to the limit to come through for his team. So you got to give that man respect, and you can try to twist it however you want. Even if it was the hangover game, fine. Everybody done had a hangover before. It's whatever it was. He fought through it, and he got the W. And another thing, like, playing in a place like Utah, first of all, if you're perfectly fine, it's hard to play there just because of the altitude. Like, people don't even take that into equation. Like, it's hard to breathe. Like, and that them lungs not how they are in other places. So on top of being physically impaired, he had to fight with nature. So yeah, that's why he's the GOAT. Like, it's not a conversation. I really wouldn't put my money on another player in the history of the game to come through in that way in that moment.
Arnell.
I mean, it was a superhero performance, pretty much. Only thing that rivals that is Isaiah Thomas' game on the broken ankle. That's pretty much the only thing that's even parallel to it to some degree. But, like, we've all probably played hungover, probably all played with the flu or the cold. But to play with food poisoning, like, you pretty much haven't eaten anything in 14 to 24 hours, can't keep any hydration down, so you're dehydrated. You're, like, that alone is just sick. That he was able, and then to play that well and then play that many minutes. He missed 4 minutes. Okay, played 44 minutes out of 48. That's ridiculous. And then to play that way, make big shots, big plays, play both ends is a superhero performance. Like, I don't know how many more words I can say to describe what he did. And this is, in my opinion, when we start talking about GOAT people or the GOAT conversation, like, it's not close to me. It's not close. We've seen guys fold up for less. Most guys wouldn't even play the game. Or just wouldn't even try to play. And he went out there and gave it his all and won the game. Like, and to me, being clutch is not just about winning game-winning shots. It's about being there in big moments and making big plays. And that's on both ends of the ball. It could be a rebound can be clutch. A stop can be clutch. Making the right pass can be clutch. It's not just hitting game-winning shots or just keeping the other team at bay by making the right play. And that was Mike. And that was just another, chapter of his greatness, that game. Like, nothing other than Isaiah Thomas's performance, nothing's even come close to, in my opinion, in those situations. And, like, when it's that, like, when you're sick and ill and low on energy, I think it's even harder to perform than if you have an injury, in my opinion.
Go ahead, Coach.
Greatness. I mean, it's that simple. He showed why he's the GOAT. Food poisoning, like everybody said, to play on that, I've had it, and I was done, So to go out and play in an NBA Finals game, dehydrated, not being able to hold anything down, not being able to eat, I mean, come on. And then playing in a must-win game, you go down 3-2. Yeah, you're heading back to Chicago. People got to realize it's different now. But the finals used to be 2-3-2. So it was 3 straight games at Utah, and they had already lost the first 2. And people don't realize this. Utah didn't lose at home that postseason. That was the only game in the postseason that Utah lost at home, was the food poisoning game. Like, I'm gonna start calling it from now on. So Jordan just showed, why he's Jordan. But also, last play, Byron, what was he thinking? Why would you double team Scottie Pippen and leave Mike wide open? Come on, hey, film session. Russell, you're gonna have to answer some questions, brother, because you made a bonehead decision. Hey, if Pippen scores, Pippen scored. But to leave Mike wide open because you went to double team? Come on, man. Yeah, come on. That was I guarantee in the history of scouting Michael Jordan, no coach has ever said, hey, if this situation happens, leave Michael Jordan, double off of him to
go blitz.
No, yeah, exactly. Come on. You just don't do it, man. So, that game was hey, it was great to see, man, just to relive that game all over again, to see the highlights and the clips of it, come on. You betting on Mike, in which people were. They thought they were going to lose that game. No, it just doesn't happen. The levels to this game, and he showed why he's the GOAT.
You didn't even know he was sick.
Blown, yeah.
Moments, it was like a couple episodes ago when they talked about the BJ Armstrong was talking about when Mike kind of hit to that next place of Wickland, where he started hunting moments, right? As all of you so nicely pointed out, what was on the line in that moment. And like Arnell said, it's clutch isn't always just the narrative thing about who hit the final shot and all that other stuff. But like you guys just said, that's the only time they lost in the postseason via coach. Another thing, had they lost that would have broke that streak Mike had, 631 games between 3-game slides. All right, 631 games including postseason between 3-game slides. Again, Utah during that time, Cardell, you're an AFC West fan, you know what it looks like. Kansas City's a loud place, right?
Yeah.
You take that in Utah, that's a smaller, and you amp that up to a whole nother place. People watching, I know we're already aware, but every clip you saw of Phil in Utah, he had earplugs in. He's talking to his team with visible earplugs in. It was just a separator. To me, it was the great separator. In case you ever wanted to accidentally stumble down a road and maybe you're like, it's 1-1. Gap. That. Done. Walk away. We don't need to discuss anymore. That's the great separator. To do that, like Raymond said, with the altitude, Arnell mentioned playing both ends, not giving anything just because of how you feel. Because we just sat here talking about the quality of opponent that Utah was. You drop that game, they're mentally strong enough to go to Chicago and get you out the way if you don't have your stuff together. And he didn't even want his group to even entertain that. He wouldn't let them. We learned, not we learned, but I hope a lot of people saw, even by the time we got to like episodes 4, his will, that mental fortitude. That's what that was. Because physically, man, he wasn't there. You're not there. That was literally just all will. And that's just what that was. And that type of performance when you need it, it just hits a little different when you need it. Because you could have, I'm trying so hard not to be petty right now, but you could have found excuses because you were sick. You could have showed up to the press conference with like ginger ale, some crackers or whatnot. Like, look, I did everything I could, but obviously I wasn't feeling well. Like Jerry Sloan out here, like, who was sick? My team we just lost a great opportunity. Who was sick? We going back to Chicago down a game. What did y'all talk? I want to hear about that. Who was sick? It's just a great separator for me.
It was ESPN used to do these Sports Century back in the day, and it was around this game, and Brian Russell said, I feel like, with him being sick, we should have went at him more and tired his legs out when he'd have been fatigued at the end of the game where he might not have made that shot. And they relayed that message to Jerry Sloan, and Jerry Sloan said, "You got to remember who you attacking. One of the best defensive players to ever play the game." So even Jerry Sloan had enough wherewithal to be like, even a 6 Jordan on defense, you still can't just do what you want against him. He still ain't have enough confidence in certain guys on his team to attack Jordan to try to tire him out. I mean, that's just a testament even more to how great he was. Like, no, we ain't going that route. You know what I'm saying? So, but just check this out. In that game, Pippen 5 for 17. Luke Longley showed up. He was 6 for 7. Ron Harper 2 for 4. Dennis Rodman 1 for 1. Steve Kerr 0 for 3. Kukoc 3 for 5. And Bison Dele 2 for 8. Nobody else scored. He literally carried the load set and finished with 38, 7, and 5 on the road in Utah. Where other guys outside Luke, and he had Osa tag on him, so that's not really a hard day. I mean, it just further proves why he is who he is, and where I'm like, all right, man, look, any player in the history game, I'm going to war with him because I know he's gonna be there. I ain't got a question. I ain't even got to worry about him. You see what I'm saying? So that performance is just one of the greatest. Like you said, it's up. Isaiah, even though Willis Reed ain't played the whole game for the most part, him coming back from that bad leg injury to come and hit a couple shots and break the spirits of the Lakers, and they came back and win. That's will, man. That's heart, and that's what separates you from other great players, and obviously defines certain teams, and why certain teams are held to a higher standard than a lot of other teams, man. One thing that impressed me the most is when they touched on Steve Kerr's story. I already knew about his father and whatnot, but I love what Steve Kerr said, how early in his career it was hard for him. He was fighting the stick, truth be told. But, playing for the Cavs, they got bad at the Bulls, and he studied John Stockton's, not John Stockton, but John Paxson's role, and understood that that's a role that he can possibly play to help him be valuable and stay in the league. That's one of the hardest things at every level you see players struggle with, accepting a role and being the best they can at that role. Because so many people feed in their head where you could be the star, you can be this, you could be that. And if you be a star in your role, you could still be a star. That's the thing. That it's funny how so many people don't understand that. And Steve Kerr was humble enough to understand that, and he eventually got his chance when he hit the game-winning shot. And I didn't even remember this. He struggled that whole game. And Jordan, you know how the thing is, Jordan don't make players better. He don't pass on the ball. My man ain't make a shot the whole game, but Jordan's like, I'm still coming to you because I know Stockton's going to double down. He always does. So just be ready. And he was like, I'll be ready. And he just managed to hit that shot. That's confidence in your teammate, man. And that's the ultimate leadership. But just talk about Steve Kerr's journey as a player, understanding his role, and how him understanding that role helped him be in position to hit that one of the biggest shots in Chicago history. We're gonna start with you, Ryan. We're gonna start with you.
Yeah, that's going that route. How his career developed. That's one of the toughest things to do, like you said. And being a great teammate is an undervalued skill. Like by the time you get to the league, everybody can play. Mm-hmm. Like you got to find out where you fit and where you can make the most impact. And he did that, and him being self-aware enough to to kind of look at a player who he felt like he would follow that mode in the league, and John Paxson, and just say, all right, this is probably where I'm going to fit in the league. Let me perfect this so I can stick around. That's amazing to take that approach from a mental standpoint, especially from a young player. I never knew what happened to his father before tonight. Like that's crazy. Like I don't, the battle through something like that. I mean, like Jesus.
That's why on Twitter he's always political. He's speaking out. I'm like, I think he's qualified. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And that. Yeah. And getting this new information, it gives me a different perspective into when he's vocal about certain things. Like, not that I ever questioned him before, but it makes it even more heartfelt and genuine now. Knowing his family history, but Steve is I think that's part of his what makes him such a great coach. to be able to relate to every player from, from a KD to the last man on the bench, because he's seen Mike firsthand, so he knows how to connect with the superstar type guys, and he's been the guy to just come in and hit a shot or two when you need it, so he knows how to relate to those guys as well. Just a well-rounded guy, not only in basketball but just just in life in general. And it's not surprising why he's had the success he's had.
Going on there.
Well, to piggyback on that, I think his journey as a player is what shaped him to be such a great executive for the Phoenix Suns and a great coach for the Golden State Warriors and a great player coach, and why his players really gravitate towards him. He's able to do a good job, and why he doesn't get rattled. He has a lot of that Phil Jackson mentality when things are not going right, and that matter-of-fact mentality and perspective. But as a player, he was humble, he was hardworking, and he understood what his role was going to be early in his NBA career. And he was willing to put in the time to perfect that so he could stay in the league. And he said something that was very intriguing to me, that I think a lot of young players understand. In his role, he's only going to get 5 to 6 or 7 shots a game. So he has to hit a high percentage of them. That's a lot of pressure.
Hell yeah.
That's why we're talking about clutch shooters, he's one of those guys on that list. He's hit big shots for the Bulls and for the Spurs. Literally, sometimes for the Spurs, not playing the whole game, okay, Steven, you go in there and hit a shot. You know how hard it is to do that when you're cold, haven't played the whole game? So, his mental toughness, and I think, his trials and tribulations, the situation with his father. And one thing I thought they were going to mention in the doc, he actually had one of his best college games at Arizona after the death of his father, which he dedicated to his dad. And just you could see a good, and I also like the fact that we got to see where not only did he get his social consciousness from, but where he also got a sense of humor from, which was his mother. I thought, he saw the similar mannerisms. So it was good seeing his side of the story and diving deep into that, and then them kind of showing that displayed in his NBA career in his role for the Bulls, hitting big shots. Even one of those games where the Bulls had to win against Utah and against Indiana, he hit a lot of big shots down the stretch. Mike kept finding him over and over. It's kind of like Mike to Paxson all over again. So that role came into fruition. And I think, him understanding the game and being around great players is one of the reasons, like I said, he's become such a phenomenal coach, in my opinion. I don't think he gets the credit for that. It's sometimes harder to coach talent than it is to coach teams that are not as talented.
Go ahead, Coach.
Looking at the doc tonight, I wrote down, beautiful and sad story when it comes to Kerr, but I said he's also a comedian. It showed, man. And I knew about his father, so I knew his father was, a political guy, but to hear him talk about it, wow, man, to hear his mother even talk about it, to hear how they found out, I'm glad they put that in there. But it also goes back. I think would that story have been in this docuseries if Michael didn't respect him. That fight, let's go back. That fight that they had in practice is the reason why he's on this series more. Why he gets Michael Jordan's respect. So to be ready in the clutch, like Arnell was saying, 5-6 times a game, that's all you could muster up. That's the shot attempts that you get, and you have to be ready to hit those shots. You got to hit a high percentage of them, or you're on the bench, point blank, period. So Mike trusted him, like I said, from that fight, from getting that, earning that respect. Hey, Kerr's a different guy. Kerr is a Popovich kind of guy when it comes to being socially aware. And we all know Pop's story. So, hey man, this dude right here, man, I love to see him. I love to hear him speak. Well, I'll take Kerr speaking before I take him coaching, and that says a lot because he's aware. He gets it, he understands it. So to hear his story, to hear his mom talk about it, man, I mean, could we do those things? Losing a parent, and then the next night having a career night. And then once he gets to the league, accepting his role, understanding his role, who's going to study John Paxson? Who's gonna go study him? Everybody wants to shine. No. Let me be
Somebody
an
that want to stick in the
MVP.
league.
Yeah, there you go. Let me be an MVP of the role positions. Hey, because you have a role. It's a lot of people making money now
You're
fulfilling
starting
a
your role.
role, regardless of what sport. Coming in late, being able to kickers in football. Relief pitchers in baseball. Uh, um, you have to be ready when the moment calls. You might not be the star, but are you able to produce under pressure? Hey, man, Kerr was, and he did it, and he lasted in the league for years. What did he play? 12 years, 12, 13 years, somewhere up there.
Probably more than that. I think. No, he was around 17 because he
Did he
came in the
play
late
that long?
80s.
Okay, hey, there you go with
The
Cleveland. So
Spurs,
he,
the
yeah,
Spurs, yeah.
so Cleveland when he came out, hey, you saw the team that they had, but they also had those Jordan, seeing Jordan up close and personal on the other side. So he understood that, hey, there's a role for me when I got, to Chicago. Let me go study a guy that can do the exact same thing that I can do in Paxson, and he did, and he did it well.
And just to kind of add to what you were saying about just Kerr in general, I just feel like I'm gonna get to you, Wilson. How many players that were, I guess you could say, bigger stars and better players at his position, but are not talked about as much now as Curry is because he was a star in his role and he hit big shots. He's remembered more than those better players of his time. You know what I'm saying? That's what it did for you. And everybody wanted that shine, but he got his shine the right way by being humble, just putting in work. When his time came, he was ready. Go ahead, Wilson.
Just put some respect on my man's name. I remember leading up to the documentary, everybody was wondering why is Steve Kerr on the graphic for the documentary. I hope whichever one of you very special people had the nerve to ask that and question it. I hope you got your answer tonight. It's ridiculous. Um, yeah, and as Coach said, and I want to talk too much because you guys really did a great job talking about it. His ability to be self aware. I think people overlook that. Like you said, who's gonna study John Paxson? Someone who is freaking self aware. I'm not gonna go into Chicago and be John Stockton. I'm not gonna go in there and be BJR. John Paxson. I can do those things. Then when you get to Chicago, let me get up under John's wing. Let me figure out, the best way to not only win my teammates' trust, to win Mike's trust. The way that he approached stuff, and another thing, mentally, he was as tough as they come too. Obviously for the off the court reasons, but on the court too, it's not like he was blessed with outstanding athleticism or anything anywhere. Um, and then the ability to, like, at the end of the day, he's a winner, right? Like Mike said, after that shot, he earned his wings. Kerr's a winner. Um, I'm just happy for it because hopefully people put some respect on his name because over these last few years with Golden State, people, oh, anybody can do it, anybody can do whatever. It's easy, yada yada yada, whatever. All this other it's just absolute garbage. The job he's done has been amazing, and y'all really better hope they don't get a certain person in the draft because I look forward to that job they do as well. Golden State's in good hands. And then yeah, it was just I hope people caught Mike's genuine happiness for Steve hitting that shot. You know what I'm saying? Like because everyone always likes to pick about, oh, he's an a-hole, he's like real quick newsflash. It's called sports. Um, People don't say nice things in it during the lines of play. Coach, I'm sure maybe I don't know.
Not on the
Your
high
happiest
levels.
moments in life may have not been during the course of a game. All right, it's part of it. But what stood out to me is the fact that look what he's doing right now. Look at the pedigree that he has. People were acting funny when he got the coaching job. Look at the pedigree. You got to see some of it. This wasn't the full journey, but look at the pedigree. We got to see some of it tonight. So just put some respect on Steve Kerr's name. It's been ridiculous the past few years.
I always respected Steve Kerr. Even when he got to go to state, people ain't want to give him credit, saying he got a lot of talent. He inherited a good team, which he did. But I'm a firm believer it's harder to coach talent, because they know what they can do. You say, hey, KD, we're gonna need you to take 10 shots, Steph, man. We're gonna need you. You're gonna have to do this, do that, man. What? star players like, hold up, dog, I've been doing this my whole career and it's been working. Like, why am I gonna switch up now? You got to fight with him. Maybe just like Phil had a fight with Mike, to run a triangle, and he eventually got to that point. But hats off to him, man. You know what I'm saying? He figured it out. And I wish a lot more players would listen to what he said. I think that kind of went over a lot of players' heads because, we got good little network of friends in the G League and in the league where they always telling me about players that got cut and stuff just because they didn't want to accept their role. They be like, I need more shots. Why is this player getting that? Why he get called up? Why is he getting more minutes? Oh, man, you favor him because he making more money. It's politics. Always that P word. No, it's just a simple thing. It's doing what the hell they asking you to do. And then, okay, he's doing that. Let's give him some more rope. All right, give him some more rope. Next thing you know, you may find yourself starting in the game. Next thing you know, hey, you're dependent on. It's just as simple like, for instance, Wilson. I'll talk about your team, the Hornets. Devontae Graham was in the G League last year. Not this past season, the year before. He was in the G League, earning his stripes out of Kansas or whatnot. Got called up to the Charlotte. He was in the running for most improved. He's a legit starting guard now. So, I mean, you got to look at that thing when it comes to just understanding your role and maximizing that opportunity. And that's what a lot of players at all levels struggle with. Go ahead, Arnell.
I mean, I wanted to piggyback what you said. Like, I'm constantly telling players, like, find someone that plays the same role you play on the college and NBA level and watch what they do. Stop trying to be Steph Curry when you're the fourth option on your team. It just doesn't make sense. But everyone wants to be the star, but everyone can't be the star. So if you could be a star on your role and maximize that, then you'll find minutes. And you might be able to get a bigger role. We've seen that happen where a guy played a certain role, then somebody got injured, then we saw that they have more to their game. And I think that's something that gets lost in translation. Also with Kerr, like, Kerr was on the floor during money time. People tend to forget that. He also was a much better defender than given credit for. He strapped up. So that's all I wanted to add. But I just also wanted to piggyback what you were saying about the role thing. I think it's very important for younger players to hear and understand it's not always politics, but if we have three guys that can score, we need another guy that can do something else and complement those players. So what else can you bring to the table? And a lot of guys, I just think don't understand that.
My thing is, what would you rather be? On the NBA roster, G League roster, possibly getting to the NBA, earning up, making a living playing a professional basketball, or you want to be at home talking about politics with your friends on the phone? I mean, what's the option? So, and what Wilson's talking about is James Wiseman possibly ending up in Golden State in the draft if that happened. It could get ugly real quick. They better hope that don't happen. So,
or they can trade that pick and get a proven star.
Like who?
Like go on.
Like who?
Don't know. It's Golden State. They'll figure something out.
Yeah, them stars got to be available. We're going to talk about Gus Lett, you know what I'm saying, and Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals in 98. But Jordan's relationship with Gus Lett, that he been getting killed this whole time with the docuseries, talking about he's an a-hole for how hard he is on teammates and how he joke about people and whatnot. But that side of Jordan that they kind of allowed people to see with Gus Lett is all the stories I've heard about him for years behind the scenes from people that work for Jordan Brand or whatnot. They say he's always like that with people. And, Gus Lett, like they say, he was a hardcore dude on the police force. Like, and to be that way in Chicago, that means something. That means you putting in work. You know what I'm saying? Where they know not to mess with you and whatnot. And he became something of somebody, Jordan could lean on, an older person with life experience that was lost when Jordan's father was killed, and how he protected him. It's like he kind of just said, I'm gonna look at Mike as my own son, in this situation. I'm gonna take care of him in that way. Just talk about that relationship, that between Jordan and Gus Lett, and the Game 7 game, and how tough it was with the Bulls finally pulling it out and advancing to the finals. We're gonna start with you, Arnell.
With Gus and just in period with the documentary, what I've taken from it, because we already knew that Jordan was a certain way on the court and in practice, but you got to see the more human side of him, and how deeply he cared about people. He didn't have a big circle, but for those he did care about, and he gave that same type of dedication to them. And Gus had cancer, like Gus' wife saying he always was there, he's always around, making sure he was all right. and just having that connection. And Gus was that father figure he needed when his dad, was murdered. But even deeper than that, like to see how he conducted with Stockton and Malone after they beat them in the series, it was classy. It was no rubbing it in. It was like good series. And you saw that mutual respect. And that's something that really resonated with me. Same thing with Reggie Miller. We just stopped and saw him, gave him a handshake. It's not, the series is not over. So I just respected to see that side of him. And it kind of further explains why the Isaiah Thomas thing really was a big deal for him, because he wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
As competitive as he was,
all respect.
Yeah, he there was a certain sportsmanship that he expected, not only from himself but his opponents, and the respect that he gave, and he wanted that return. Like between the lines, he might say something, he might do something, but after the game, I'm a different person. I think sometimes athletes in general get a bad knock for that, because we can be very competitive and demanding and all these type of things when we're playing, but that doesn't mean that's who we are once the game is over. We're competing. We're not supposed to be nice to you. We're trying to win the game. You're in my way. So I just thought it was a beautiful piece with the Gus part. Just really starting to see that human side of Jordan. And I think sometimes just athletes in general, we just see them as these rich millionaires, and we forget that they're human.
Go ahead, Coach.
I mean, I think, you two said it all. This is someone he needed at a time of his life where, he didn't have his father anymore. As you can see, when Gus' wife said that, he would call him at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and MJ would be crying, so he showed that vulnerable side as well. And Gus was there for him like it was his own son. So it was needed. And then, him having to go through the cancer situation. Once again, you're playing in the playoffs, in a season, then the playoffs, when someone who is like a father is, going through a chemo. That's tough, man. That's tough. That is tough. You've already lost, your real father tragically. And then to see someone have cancer like that, and as you can see, he was in the hospital, he was on the phone, he was always checking up on him. But he needed that. He needed Gus, as long as he was healthy, he needed him to be there for him in that game 7. That extra motivation. Once again, we see that, Jordan, gets strength in anything, and this one wasn't a made up story. This one wasn't a, somebody, didn't speak to him at dinner or whatever. This was a true heartfelt situation where, here's a man who's my fault, my new father now. And he's going through the fight of his life. And, to see that, you felt it, So like Arnell said, it showed the human side of Jordan, which I will say the one thing that when Arnell was talking about Jordan, he rubbed it in. He rubbed it in. We saw that in Larry Bird when they eliminated, Indian after game 7. He gave him
That was
a little
playful.
bit.
It wasn't me. It
No,
wasn't
no, 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 no,
mean-spirited.
no, no. Yeah, no. It was a. You know what, Larry? We're on that same. I know it's levels, but we're on that same level. I can do that to you. I can say that. I can give you those little, those little jabs, But I think all that was the Olympics and all, the family, the bond that they all had. So you can rub it in, but Larry was walking back like this son of a gun, So hey, man, it showed the human side of Jordan, both on and off the court.
Go ahead, Wilson.
Yeah. It was just a good example of just for athletes, period. Because a lot of people, especially now, and everybody's glued to their phones and stuck on social media, and people have like a separation issue where you can't separate things that you see. So there's sports, there's life, not both the same. So the person you are between the lines isn't always necessarily going to be the person you are outside the lines. I know, like, what we're in media. After we talk quite a bit, we have to talk a lot. I don't like talking outside of this. Very quiet person. Talking bothers me, but it's just a part of what we do. Um, So it was cool to see that human side. But like Arnell said, like it's a side read about, seen, but again, it's also something people choose to ignore when you're spinning your narratives because things sound good. Um, yeah, I think spinning is a good word. But yeah, it's just an example of it, one of the many. And yeah, like you all said, Gus and his security team as a whole, those older guys as a group, it looks like they really stepped up and did their best to fill a huge, huge void. Which lets you know that yeah, that's a security team, but it wasn't just the whole, you know, you guys are paid to protect me type relationship thing, right? Like,
They were family.
exactly. Thank you. I know it was a legit family thing where these dudes, even though like, most folks would look like, that's Mike. You look at, the group of them and walking down the street, the guy you're protecting is at the top of the totem pole or whatever, and the guys around him, they're looking like we gotta look out for the young dude. You know what I'm saying? We know what he lost, and kudos to all of those guys. I know all of them are no longer still with us, so may they all continue to rest in peace and prayers to their families and whatnot. So it's cool to see that light, see have the documentary shine that light on that relationship, and then just the human as a whole. Because people have a real artist. Because I was watching parts of it with my wife. My wife was like, "Oh, there's some arrogant." I was like, "Yeah, that's between the lines. It's between the lines." So it was just cool for that moment. I hope people could understand how to just sometimes try to separate the two. So yeah, that's all I have.
Well, Raymond.
Yeah, I'm glad they highlighted, some interpersonal relationships that Mike had, and and showed him interacting with, with staff and other players and coaches and things like that. Because his reputation has basically been sullied, in the media with people trying to make him out to be such a terrible person. But everybody I know that spent time around him doesn't have anything bad to say about him in regards to how he treats people. And that Gus situation is that shows you what gives a little peek into his character. And I think a special moment was when Gus pointed out, Mike swiped the game ball for him. That's a special token to somebody that stepped in for him when he needed it. And it's just interesting to see what it looks like behind closed doors. Like when you see when in last week's episode when you saw him, piling around with the security guys, flipping quarters or what have you, just kind of having fun. His interaction with Larry after the Indiana series, it's gave him a lighthearted jab. It was pleasant. He's not being a jerk. Even with Reggie before the game, they had a very casual interaction. It's like, yeah, I know it's about to be a battle. They laughed, they joked, they shook hands and whatnot, and they had their battles on the court. They got into a few scuffles or what have you. So it's good to have some physical evidence to dispel some of the rumors that have been circulating for years. And it's borderline character assassination for real, because it's I've yet to see some physical proof of all the negative stuff that has come out about him. Yeah, you can talk about how he treated his teammates or what have you, but if you're a boss and all your employees like you, you're not doing your job. It's got to be tough sometimes to get maximum results. So it's that was a special bond. I'm glad they highlighted it, and even speaking to George Kohler, people don't even know like how they met. Like when Mike was a rookie in Chicago, that guy was like a limo driver, and his fare didn't show up, and he was lucky enough to pick Mike up, and from that day forth, they formed a relationship. Like people who are jerks don't meet people that way and continue to, form a bond with them over 30 some odd years. So I mean, yeah, it's just good that they kind of peel back the layers. Since Mike is such a private person, it was good to see a little more of him just in a casual setting, not on a basketball court.
And the reason why I call it, I just call it Jordan fatigue. He's been on top for so long. People just nitpicking. That's why he's so private. He just get, I can't blame us and him. You just get tired of people nitpicking every little thing you do. You just want to, disappear and stuff. I know they asked his son today, does Michael look at Twitter, see what people are saying about him? His son said it straight. He said, he said, Pops could give a f about what y'all saying on Twitter, man. He said, my man retired. He playing 36 holes of golf a day. He chilling. He living his life, man. He said that's what we do. And, people get online. We'll get on them. That's what we here for. But I mean, like I said, those are the stories I've heard. Those are the things I've seen. Just Jordan Brand class, all that. How people operate. Such a big time event. They acting more professional than some high school games I've covered. You know what I mean? Just straight up, it is what it is. But it was just great to see the human side. And you realize he's not an a-hole. I think people don't understand, like he said, people don't understand what winning's about in a intense competition, especially at the highest level of your field. Most people don't get there. And I just think a lot of people today just don't know how to separate the two. They want to be loved and liked all the time. They think everything's supposed to be all peaches and cream all the time, and it's just not like that. Especially you playing 82 games and there's physicality involved. It's a sport. You getting hit and all that. And I love even how they was paying respect. You could still feel that tension, like I'm at your head the next game. It wasn't like today where it's like, man, yo, dog, it's like, yeah, man, good game. But just know it ain't over, dog. We coming back and stuff like that. Because even when he dapped up Carmelo John Stockton after the podium, I got that clip here at home. Like, as soon as Carmelo went on the podium, he like, oh, we ain't coming here to just die. We gonna win the next game. Right after he shook Jordan's hand and stuff. So, and they ended up winning the next game. So, even the Larry Bird trash talk, that was hilarious because that you could tell that relationship was forged on the Dream Team stuff. That's just come on, like F you little B, and then Bird pissed, so he like, all right, take care. He said, now you got more time to work on that golf game and stuff. Like, come on, man, that's just Dream Team back and forth, man, and it's hilarious. And that's behind the scenes stuff that what made the doc what it is, man, because we never seen that before. And for them to release it just goes. So we're gonna kind of get to the last episode. Obviously, NBA Finals. Utah were better. They were more hungry. They split in Utah. The Bulls come back and beat the hell out of Utah, 96-54 in record-breaking fashion. And then Dennis Rodman skips practice to go wrestle for WCW. I mean, just talk about that whole experience with Rob, and then they said there's over 300 reporters outside where they talk to him. And he had to run through the back door to get away from him and get on the bus. Just talk about Rodman. Go ahead, man. Go ahead, Will. So we're gonna start with you, man. Go ahead, man.
Part of the experience, man. Like I would love to be like, man, I was shocked, or man, that was crazy. Part of me was like, that's it.
He's a wild boy.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's it. Like you say, he's a wild dude, and the craziest part about it was like you could tell like one, he's just a different cat, and it was like two, like someone with that much kind of like the world's just available to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing you choose to go do is play wrestling. Like that, you went to go play WCW. That was your choice. All the possible things you could go do in the entire world with the whole world available to you. You want to go hit somebody with chairs. Like Dennis was just a weird dude. And again, this goes back. I think we talked about this last week a little bit, just like with Phil, with managing these different folks and their psyches and
Zen master.
man, that's why Phil's Phil, dog. I don't
Yeah.
know how the fact
Coaches
that
will
you can
snap.
compartmentalize it, your team doesn't tweak out, and you just look at the media like you're making a bigger issue than we are. And the fact that I legitimately believe that bothers me. Like, Phil's a special dude, man. You have to be a very special human being, and even the team, like, they just laughing and joking, and because again, like, we saw the next game, like, when the dude's there, it's an elite player in the league. Like he does so many things for you, and when he's there, it's like it's maximum effort, but just the experience of Dennis Rodman with the Bulls is must see TV, man. I don't know how Phil did it, man, because like you want to spaz, right? But then he shows up and he's still in tip top shape. He's freaking brilliant. He's out here making other people's rotations for you defensively. He's beating the glass up on both ends. What are you about to tweak about? You, it's just weird. It's part of the experience, man. It just, yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I think, I mean, Phil ain't tweet because he was Rodman of his day. He understood Rodman. So he was Rodman of the next, man. I got a photo where he's posing bucket naked, drinking a beer in the locker room, like with his leg. Like, I mean, he was Rodman before Rodman, man. So he get it. He just like don't get too carried away with it, man. All right, I'll take one here and there, but you know what I'm saying? Get back in. And Rex Chapman said a great thing on Twitter. He was like, you can get away with that stuff when you averaging like 20 rebounds a game for like 10 straight years. You know what I'm saying? You, no disrespect, rest in peace. If you Bison Daylight, you can't get away with that. You gonna be in some real trouble. So go ahead, Raymond.
Rawzilla, man. That was man, that actually brought back a lot of memories. Man, that's back when wrestling was real.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got to take it. Like, what else you want to do? It's just like when he took the mid-season vacation. Just go ahead, blow off some steam, do what you got to do, and come on back. Like, what was he gonna do? Suspend him for the next game, or like, come on? And like he handled that situation with the reporters so perfectly. They asked him, how do you feel that he's taking your attention away from the finals? He says, no, he's taking your attention away from the finals. Like, we know what the mission is at hand as a basketball team. Like, you guys are the ones focusing on this, not us. We're focusing on what's going to happen on the court. And lo and behold, Rodman showed up the next game and put his paws all over that game. So you got to take some crazy stuff when you're dealing with Dennis Rodman. It is what it is. Like, you're not gonna fully rein him in. You're not gonna have him be straight laced. And like you said, Cardell, Phil understood that based on how he was as a player. I mean, you know, and I can only imagine what he was doing in the 70s. Like, that was a different time. So yeah, it's funny. You know, it's cool to see. I mean, if I could, I would be coming out with NWO. Like, that was like the coolest shit to happen in wrestling in like forever. Like, but yeah, man, yeah, you just got to take what Rodman gives you.
Go ahead, Arnell.
It's Dennis Rodman being Dennis Rodman, and because he's exceptional at what he does, he can get away with it. Like, we've all had teammates. I've been on teams where it's that guy that didn't show up to practice all the time or was aloof. But you knew when the game was on, he usually get his best performance. So because he performed, he was consistent with that. They let it slide. It wasn't really a big deal for him. It was a big deal for the media, just something to talk about. But I don't think the Bulls were really sweating it because they knew as soon as he got there, he'd be ready to do his job. And they knew what they were getting into. Like, when they signed it, as soon as these things were going to happen. You know, but it was a great gamble. They won 3 championships. So he needs to take a night off and miss a practice, which I'm pretty sure he didn't miss much from not being there, to go to NWO and do his thing. So what? I mean, he got fined. You know, he came out and performed really well the following game. Who cares, you know? It's Dennis Rodman. He does these things, or he did these things. I think the media made it bigger deal than anyone else. The only thing Phil was kind of pissed off because he didn't know that Dennis was going to show up. And that also goes to Phil's greatness on how to manage egos and manage a team. Like, people don't give him his due because they're, oh, he's not a great coach. He's had great players. Once again, it's harder to coach talent sometimes. You have to manage egos. You got to get them to buy into their roles. And who has been better than that than Phil Jackson?
For sure.
That's my take.
Go ahead, Coach.
I mean, Dennis Rodman marched to his own drum. He did.
I got a question, and don't front. How would you have dealt with Dennis Rodman? Because we wouldn't have got away with that back in college. See, that's why you laughing. See, ain't no way in hell we could have did it, man. You'd be like, oh, you gone. Your stuff packed. It's over.
College,
Pro basketball is different.
Look,
Don't say the pros
college,
Pro basketball is different.
different ball game.
I got you, coach. I got your back.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Arnell. Look. So we would have flipped out on Cardell because you were probably our most Dennis Rodman guy. Not the craziness, No. But let me put a little something on that. He wasn't crazy, but Cardell didn't take no mess from anybody. When I say anybody, I mean anybody. So we had a hothead. It was Cardell.
Yeah, I was that.
So we knew how to manage Cardell. You gotta know how to manage these guys. So look, hey, Dennis being Dennis, you knew what you signed up for when you got him. 2 years earlier than that. It just so happens to be the NBA Finals that it happens. Like, wow. I couldn't imagine being Phil in that situation. But once again,
exactly,
like Cardell, I would have snapped, but I wouldn't have snapped at him. I would have snapped at everybody else, but I wouldn't have snapped at him because I didn't know. That's the biggest issue. And even if I had known, like, you doing what? You going where? But understand something.
For that, man.
But understand something. He was playing. Think about this though. Think about think about the couple of days that he had. Not only was he in the NBA Finals playing with the greatest basketball player of all time, he then transitioned and went to go play with the greatest performer in wrestling, Hulk Hogan. Who's better known than Hulk Hogan? He might not be the greatest wrestler ever, but as far as his stardom, who's bigger than Hulk Hogan on the other side in wrestling, man? So, hey, he went, got paid, had fun, did his thing, then came back and performed like he always did. I think he had like 14, 15 rebounds that game, 6 points, big free throws, big shot. Hey, Dennis could do no wrong during those days, and Phil accepted it because, once again, like Cardell said, he was Rodman before Rodman. So he understood how to manage these egos, these psyches, the wildness of Dennis Rodman. So he understood it. He was just like, hey, if you take these trips and you go here, you go there, you drink this, you drink that, just when you get back, hey,
you're ready to play.
Just be normal when you get back. That's all I care about. Hey, practice, okay. And you see how they were when they, when they had the cameras in the next practice. When he came in, he was, Phil was joking, Michael was joking. If they really had a problem with it, it would have been a little something different. I don't think we would have seen the behind the scenes, that practice. The cameras wouldn't have been allowed in. But hey, if it was me, my goodness gracious, yeah, Cardell, brother.
See.
Woo!
I seen him get hoarse halfway through the first half, man. Just hoarse, like can't even talk.
Yeah.
That's why he from. I'm like, nah, you the snap.
I'll snap. But not at him though, Cardell. Not at him. Not at him. I understand him.
We gotta take the L for him. That's messed
up.
I
got you, brother. Got you.
All right, Wilson, you already spoke on this, or all right. Running away from the media, that was funny because I'm not running after nobody. I'm like, oh, you can have it, dog. Like, he ain't trying to talk. That was hilarious. But the Bulls bounced back 1 game for after the Rodman situation. Then they thinking they're going to close it out at home. Utah come back. Carmelo has a big game. And they like, nah, we going back to Utah. And that set the stage for what comes. But Pippen back is strange. Is jacked up. So that's like, come on, man. This is the worst possible time to have an injury, but it happens. He re-aggravates it when he dunks it, like at the very first couple of buckets in the game for the Bulls, and that just set the stage when he was in and out the game for the rest of the game. And Jordan had to carry the load. And Pippen admitted, I was the decoy the whole time. I'm surprised Utah ain't adjust or whatnot. But just talk about that Game 6 game with everything surrounding it, with Pippen being hurt, Jordan carrying the load, Utah fans on him, Karl Malone and John Stockton not going away. Just talk about the entire game up until the last sequence when John Stockton hit the 3. I'm going to start with you, Coach.
Hey, Pippen, I tell you, boy, migraine. You
Oh
know,
damn.
1.8 seconds. I'm not
Ah
checking back
damn.
into the game. You know, he's had this docuseries. It's been rough on him, man. It's been rough. But you understand something? He finally got his due, though. Even though it was a bad look, for him to persevere and still come back in the game and do what he normally does. You know, obviously he was a decoy, but he was still scoring late. You know, had a couple of buckets down there in the paint in that fourth quarter. So it made him look good. Like, because if he had sat out that game, wow,
Yeah,
wow.
not
I
that.
mean, this would have been just awful for him, man. But he did what he did, man. And playing in Utah, yo,
Not for the week.
let me tell you something. If you remember what Jordan's kids said, they said their mother wouldn't let him go.
Yeah.
They said, no, you couldn't play in Utah. And remember what happened, what was this, 2 years ago or last year with Russell Wilson?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Westbrook.
I'm sorry. What Russell Westbrook? Thank you, Arnell. They're different. Their fans are different.
I won't let the kids go either with Mike getting food poisoning. Nah, you ain't going there, dog. Jordan kids, you get him too. Anything to win the game.
Yeah, anything. But
Get the kids.
It just shows once again levels of this. It shows you that MJ with everything against them, their second. I'm not even gonna call him Robin. I'm gonna call him 1A. He was out. He was pretty much out, and they still won the game. Like, come on, man. It was destined. Utah wasn't going anywhere. Hey, once again, you got Hall of Famers, in Utah, wearing that white jersey. They were, or blue, whatever it was during that
Hall
time.
of Fame coach.
Yeah, Hall of Fame coach. You had snipers in Hornacek, and I know we get on Russell, but Russell could defend. It was just that he was defending Jordan. I mean, it is what it is. So you had guys over there that could really play the game, and but number 23 did what he did.
On you, Wilson.
Yeah, it was another one of those moments, one of those separators. It's one of those things you throw in that list of, you just make a list for that horrible conversation that doesn't need to happen anyways. But then you put a box to the side, and in that box are these moments. We talked about, one of those moments earlier. This is another one. Yeah, Pip couldn't afford to sit this one out. I don't care what was going on.
Yeah.
What you had in the past, sir. Mm-hmm. Even if he was dragging a leg out there, he's gonna have to drag that out because you did the Kukoc thing when Mike wasn't around. You wasn't about to be the dude to not be around. Why this dude is here on y'all's last hurrah.
And delayed surgery coming in the season, which could have hurt them as well. Like, yeah.
Like of all the people.
Good point, Cardell.
Yeah, like of all the people, no matter what was, you just gonna have to thug that one through. Cause like what's it called when he said something to Mike ain't even hear that. Like, oh, you saw him.
He walked away.
He was like, I know you ain't talking to me, but it's talking to somebody who cared. Like, man, went to the back, talked to the trainer, did all
Mike had to do was say last year, Game 5.
Beat me to it, man.
There it is.
Nah, you're right. It's just crazy. But yeah, it was just one of those moments. And the other thing is, I was happy that they showed the missed shots in the fourth quarter by Mike because he struggled through that fourth quarter until that last sequence. Because a lot of times today we only show the good parts of things, not the bad parts. Prior to that last minute and change, looked dead in the water out there for a while. Utah looked like they were gonna do what they needed to do to push that thing once again. And as you guys mentioned, the year before you won there, then I have to come back and do it again. So like Utah already surrendered a pivotal game. You think that's what they wanted to do one more time? And the other thing I love, and this is something where, because I've seen some of y'all during his Golden State years, why doesn't Steve call timeouts? You see where you get this from, right? Defense doesn't set. And coach, I know you can allude to this. A well-coached team like Utah, the worst thing for them is when things aren't set. That's what we saw in that last close. Things were not set. Mike makes a big play and it's great, but the biggest thing to me, even before that, like Cardell said, Stockton shot prior to that. again, dude, continuing to hit shots. And then on a defensive end, Mike never really leaving. And that it's not like Karl Malone's like not cerebral, but you and your own personal matchup with Dennis, like that's a whole different thing you're dealing with. And then the wherewithal about Mike, like, yeah, I should clear, but he not gonna look. He not gonna look for me.
Not
He
just
better
that,
not.
he's probably looking at Ron Harper, seeing if he's gonna dig down, try to strip him too. So he's trying to make sure he clears so he can try his move.
Yep.
I mean, but that's what happens when you play. You're a great defensive team. You got to worry about a lot of different things before you make your move. It's not now. It's like, all right, it's basically ISO ball. Go ahead, what's my fault?
Like, but no, you good. But like you said, so Ron 6'6", it's not like it's a little guy digging down. It's easy to throw that pass over top of Ron Harper. You know what I'm saying? Secondly, you're already in the corner a little bit. Your options are limited. You're not throwing no cross court pass across the Bulls like defenses. A couple people might get away with it, but that's not a legit option right there. It was just a hell of a sequence, and again, the fact that even with all the, literally the deck stacked against him rather, the Bulls got it done. The Bulls got it done. Enough plays were made. The Bulls got it done.
Go ahead, Raymond.
Again, any other player in that situation, they lose. Man, they had every justifiable excuse to drop that game. You on the road and probably the most hostile environment in the league. Your second best player is hampered by injury.
I'm mean, not to cut you off. My fault. That was Steve Kerr, not Ron Harper. My fault. Go ahead.
But yeah, and again, Mike just rises to the occasion and shows why he is who he is. Like it's amazing. I mean, his performance. He comes out. He knows Pippen's limited, and he's tired, mentally exhausted, physically drained. Pretty much has to play the whole game. Responds with 45 points, and what he did in that last 37 seconds, the attacking Byron Russell, getting the layup, coming down, stripping Malone, then coming back and hitting that shot. Who else in the history of the game is doing that? Even after, like you pointed out, Stockton's big three, like to put Utah up, like it's, man, pressure bust pipes. A lot of people fold in that situation, or even if they try to, answer back, they not elevating their game like that. So again, man, it's just another reason why Mike is recognized as the GOAT. Like it's incredible, when people talk about, where other guys, teammates didn't step up or they didn't do this and do that. You got that anchor, pretty much the anchor of your defense. The guy who gets you into your sets. He pretty much can't move. You got to deal with him coming in and out the game and keep that laser focus and to perform the way he did. I mean, and also like much respect to Pippen too, because I mean the back injury is nothing to play with, and for him to just grind it out, and he made a couple key plays, got a defensive stop, couple late buckets there. So I mean he did what he could, but again, it's just Mike rising to the occasion.
Go ahead, Arnell.
Well, I'll start with Pippen first because I'm gonna have a few things to say about Mike and that performance. Sky gets a bad rap for being soft, and there's some things I do question about him: his leadership, the insecurities he had about being second to Mike. But I never thought he was. Once he became the player that he became in his peak, I never thought he was soft. And playing with your back like that is nothing light. It actually can lead to you injuring something else or worsening your back. So the fact that he played it out anyway and found a way to play it out, much respect for that. It's not easy in that type of environment, that type of game, like game 6, backs against the wall. So I much kudos to that for him. But with Mike, this game, in my opinion, pretty much illustrates why he's the GOAT. Leadership. Because if it was him in that situation, he would have played. Pippen knew he had to man up. He didn't have a choice. And when Mike got on him a few times, I was like, no, you're better on the court than the locker room. Pippen played because Mike was going to do anything. He wasn't going to tell someone else to do something that he couldn't do or he wouldn't do. So that leadership, that example, is one of the reasons why he's a GOAT. The performance, like once again, being clutch is not always about hitting, which he did, but not always hitting the game-winning shot. He made big shots to keep Utah at bay. I think at one point he scored like 14 straight points for the Bulls. He scored more than half the points for the game. We had 47.
45.
The Bulls barely broke 90. You know what I'm saying? So like,
they ain't even break 90. I'm looking at they had 87.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? Like that performance, like he just made big plays, and he went through a stretch early in the fourth where he just couldn't hit anything, but he was phenomenal on the other end. You know, he just kept them close enough so he can close the game, and that's what he did. You know, even the cerebral part of him, like knowing, like, hey, they ran this play 4 times in a row, and Carl's so worried about Rodman, he ain't gonna see me. The clean steal brings it up, looks Phil off. We're not calling timeout. It ain't happening right now. You know, like just it was a complete package of why he's the GOAT. And then like most guys would have made excuses or could have made excuses. That second best player is not very, productive because of an injury. You're on the road, hostile environment. Against two of the top players in the NBA at the time, and you still get it done. How many players can we say have been in those situations and been successful? Not many. And that's all I have to say about that. Like, that was just a brilliant performance. And like I said, it was another low-scoring game. So that 47 was really impactful, more so than other games. Like, you getting 50 and both teams scored 130 rather than both teams are scoring the 80s is different.
Go ahead, Coach.
Just breaking that down, I didn't know we were going to finish it, Cardell. I thought you were going to the Stockton shot, but
they started going, so you go.
Oh, okay. Well, let me finish up. Those 41 seconds, after Stockton took that shot and hit that three, people got to realize it brought me right back to the toughest series I've ever watched. Once again, my man Barkley. Jordan scored quickly.
Yeah.
On a layup. People don't realize that.
Put
same
pressure.
thing that happened. Same thing happened.
Put pressure on the other team. Yep.
Exactly. The exact same thing happened in Phoenix. They allowed them to score too quickly, but the only difference is Phoenix, they were up by 4 when he made the basket and put it down to 2. In this case, they were up by Utah was up by 3. He took it to 1. But once again, you put pressure on the other team to have to come back and score. And you see what happened. Mike got the steal on Malone. Phil knew not to call the timeout. You never and that's what, oh God, I can't stand it sometimes when I watch teams play and you call timeout. Why would you let the other team? Now, if you didn't have your offensive play, if you have your team, your offensive guys on the court on that defensive set, you got to let it ride. Because you don't want them to call timeout and put in, better defenders if they didn't already have them in the game, and then also talk about plays that they've scouted you through the whole season. Hey, this could happen. Let's do this. Let's do that. And if they had to call that timeout, trust me, somebody would have doubled Mike. Because you cannot let Mike shoot that shot. I might not come. I don't care who it is. Even if we saw it with Paxton before. We saw it with Kerr before. Hey, look, let me tell you something. They're going to have to hit this game-winning shot to win.
Point blank. Pippen shoot it.
Oh, exactly. I would have had Pippen, Rock, any of them. They win the game. You got to double off of him. Where was the rotation? You can't leave Russell by himself on the island. Come on, But once again, Phil Jackson not calling that timeout. Michael Jordan understanding the moment. 45, I wrote down 45 championship career. There it is. It in a nutshell, the shot, 2, hey man, this guy right here, I think Arnell has said it, it showed why he was the GOAT. Not only did he come up in those moments, it's moments in everybody's career, whatever you do, whatever sport you play, whatever job you have, there are moments. Do you rise to the occasion in those moments? And time after time after time, in the biggest stage of this man's career, he showed up and he showed out. and it's nothing different than what he did to seal his last championship. Why he's the greatest.
And I'm gonna just roll with what all y'all saying, man. And I think people don't understand the load he had to carry. Because when Pippen went out, the only other player in double figures was Tony Kukoc, and he had 15. Ron Harper and Pippen both had 8. Dennis Rodman had 7. That was pretty much it. Bushler and Winnington had 2. So if he didn't put up that big number, there's no way even with him doing that, Utah still was in position to win that game. That's why I hate when they be like, man, he was just a scorer. He needed to score. There's nobody on that team could score consistently enough for them to keep winning games like they did. But when you look at Utah had Karl Malone at 31, Jeff Hornacek had 17, Stockton had 10, Antoine Carr had 9, Shannon Anderson had 5, Brian Russell had 7. So they had more people in double figures or whatnot, but it just came down to him. The Bulls' top player, the best player in the game, making plays, and Utah didn't. And it seemed like that's what always happens with Mike, man. He always just finds a way, and that's why he's considered the greatest of all time. And then, like I said, just that sequence, because we've seen other superstars, I'm not going to pick on them, but I'm going to just say what it is. I always go back to that game against the Warriors with LeBron when game 1 with J.R. Smith situation happened, and he went off. And people were just like, man, J.R. Smith cost him the game. I'm like, no, y'all still had overtime. Stay focused. It was y'all going into overtime, but they lost all composure and whatnot. And the Warriors came back and got that game, and I knew it was over. That's just bad leadership. I mean, come on, dog. Like, stuff happens. All right, he messed up, but you still got overtime to regroup yourself.
Keep your composure.
And they ain't do that. You know
mental
what I'm saying?
toughness.
Exactly, mental toughness, like you just said. But look what the Bulls did, mental toughness. And Phil Jackson better not have called a timeout. It's the perfect. If you would have called a timeout, you'd have just shot a driver play to get in Jordan's hands anyway. The ball was in his hands, so let it rock. That's the perfect scenario. The ball's in Jordan's hands, and it's not a set defense. They scrambling, trying to just get back and not give up anything easy. And they sprayed the floor for him. What better position do you want? And just to see them take the still shots of Utah fans when they knew it was over, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe it's about to happen. Like, yeah, it's about to happen. You know what I'm saying? Y'all let John Wick out loose, man. It is what it is, though. So
I see you, Arnell.
So I mean, it's dope, man. I love what I saw, man. But one more question, and then we out of here, man. So, oh boy, obviously they celebrate and whatnot. And Jerry Reinsdorf, he didn't know this. He said he asked Phil to come see him in the back and say he would bring him back as a coach. And Phil Jackson said he needed a break because he knew it would be so much toxic energy because it's kind of like he's overstepping Jerry Krause. You know what I'm saying, by doing that. But then Reinsdorf contradicted himself by saying, look, it would have been impossible to pay all the role players because their value was so high and we didn't have the money to pay all the role players, talking about Kerr and, Rodman and all those guys that helped make the championship. So originally he was going to try to get a commitment to get Phil back, which probably would have brought Mike back, and then try to be sneaky and rebuild it. Like, how do you like that whole scenario and how he was trying to be sneaky and try to keep the coach and the star player intact, and then thinking that they can rebuild in 2 years and be back to competing for a championship? Like, it's that easy, especially when young teams were coming up. And I think that's when Shaq and Kobe took over 2 years after that. So, and Indiana was still strong. So, just with that whole scenario, just speak on that, man. We'll start with you, Arnell.
You saw Mike's face, right? I think that explains it all. Unless you bring that whole team back, it didn't make sense to do anything at all. Like, Phil, I think was done being in that situation, in that environment. Pippen definitely was done and probably would need some convincing to stay because he felt slighted and undervalued, underappreciated. So the moment that they said they wasn't going to bring him back, I don't think there was any return from that anyway. Right. Like Mike said, and you see him get really emotional about it. Like, why would you not let us keep competing until somebody beat us? Right. Like, I just never understood the mentality. Like, if we won it, let's come back until we don't win it, then break the team up. And even Mike made a point, like, you think these guys will sign 1-year deals for one more attempt to get another championship? If you know you have a chance to win the championship, you'll take a pay cut to some degree. I mean, the only person that shouldn't have took a pay cut would be Pippen because he was he's already getting jerked as it was. So I think it was like him, like, wow, maybe we made a big mistake, but it was at the point of no return. That's just my opinion.
Go ahead, Coach.
He handled the situation completely wrong. Point blank. He should have brought in Phil. I would have had a meeting. I would have brought in Phil. I would have brought in Michael. I would have brought in Pippen. And that's how you would have hashed everything out to see if it could have worked, and Krause, and see if it could have worked the next year. I disagree with Mike when he said, I agree with him. Kerr would have taken a 1-year deal, Longley and all the rest of them. Pippen, no.
Yeah, that's what,
yeah, and Arnell, you touched on it. He wouldn't have taken a 1-year deal because if I'm not mistaken, Cardell, correct me if I'm wrong, that the next year he signed a 5-year, $77 million with Portland.
He went to Houston after that first.
Did he go to Houston first and then?
Yeah.
All right, so whatever he signed,
first.
but he got more money, obviously. He wouldn't have taken anything, a 1-year deal. No stability, no longevity.
And how you forget that? He carried your man Barkley. Talking about that's why his fat butt don't know how to win. Remember all that? Yeah, see, Houston.
Cardell, I didn't say I didn't remember. It's just that certain things I just don't bring up, brother. Hey man, you about to bring out the coach, the most CSM days, man. Hey man, come on, we going to hit the hill, man. We going to do some laps, man. But I just think he just handled it wrong. The writing was on the wall. He said, hey, early in the season, like MJ said, 82-0 doesn't matter. You're out of here. So with that mindset, the whole entire year, what did you expect him to do? And Wilbon said this on, I was watching Sports Center, I believe last week. He said people don't realize that what's the owner's name? I'm sorry.
Reinsdorf.
Yeah, Reinsdorf. Reinsdorf didn't have the power that everybody thought he had. He wasn't just the flat out owner of the team. It was still it was still levels that he would have had to get. People wasn't spending that money. They wasn't going to allow him to spend the money. So Wilbon did touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, I saw that.
So you said So we always say, hey, this is Rondor's fault. Why didn't he check Krause?
Business.
Because there you go. It was the business aspect of things. He couldn't just throw money out there. Yeah, Pip, we all understand Pippen deserved more, but he couldn't throw it out there. You couldn't afford to keep this team as it was made up intact. You wouldn't have been able to. So
we need to find out who the other owners are. They've been hiding like a mother.
They really have.
Could have just walked past us earlier. And today we wouldn't even know.
Wouldn't know who they are. Wouldn't know who they are. So hey man, it's tough to really realize, or appreciate. Let's appreciate what we saw the last 6 out of 8 years winning.
Yeah.
Damn, to understand that, defend the title. You know what I'm saying? It's cool to go off in the sunset, retire. You at an old age, but to understand that Jordan still came back with the Wizards. Pippen played with Houston and Portland. Other guys still, played, their careers. It's like, what if? Once again, I think I said it last segment, the what ifs, and it's a big what if. We don't know if they would have won. Mike,
that lockout year, they'd got some rest too.
It would have been interesting. It definitely would have been interesting. The Knicks, the Spurs, young Timmy, and David Robinson winning the championship. I think that was the next year.
They wanted that lockout year.
Lockout year.
So it would have been interesting to see, but hey, my money would have been on Mike to defend that title and say, okay, now I wasn't forced out. I chose to go out on my own. So, hey man, tough to see. Tough to understand that, they didn't get a chance to defend their title, man.
Damon Wayans said it best. He said, I ain't trust nobody since Jordan in the fourth quarter. Like, seriously, like straight up. I agree with him. Like, I feel you, dog. Go ahead, Wilson.
Just an example of a disconnect between the front office and the team. Saw this a couple years ago with another one of the teams I root for on the NFL side, where you got a whole bunch of voices, front office, this coach, all this other stuff, and everybody's on every page but the same page. People fight for credit, making declarations, doing everything but making moves that are in the best interest of the team. We could start with step one. What you don't do is make a public declaration that this is the last hurrah for whatever your personal little reasons may be. That's ridiculous, especially when you've been around this group of people, at least the core group, for quite some time. You know these people. He knew it was dead on arrival when he said that. He knew it was done. You know what I'm saying? Like he knew it. That's exactly what Krause knew it was. Like what better way, right, to kind of like end it? But I throw this out there, and the type of people these are, they already don't like me. Some of them are very special, holding grudges, and we already tired of each other anyways, right? Cool. So Reinsdorf, I get trying to go and fix it, but like you guys just said, if you weren't the majority owner in terms of being able to make those decisions, y'all as a group, it shouldn't just be Reinsdorf on here talking. All y'all need to sit here and explain this because it doesn't make sense to me. Because even from a financial place, one more year of that, everybody's pockets, you're making your money back very quickly, like 2 or 3 times over. Just one more year of it. What if it went 2 more years? And yeah, I get maybe the roster or not. On surface you can be like, well, yeah, we don't know if they would have came back and all this other stuff. I mean, that's great, but you threw away the potential and the opportunity of it before you completed the three-peat. Like you already threw it out the window. Who thinks like that? Like that's legitimately the option of self-sabotage to a degree. And like most people say, like yeah, even if you changed, you had a core there and you changed some of the other guys or the complementary pieces. If worst case scenario, that's what you had to do. Is that really a rebuild? If you keep your core, you just did like you made your decision. It is what it is. Just own it, wear it. And Reinsdorf, and I don't even like the story about like him talking about I wanted trying to put the pieces back together. It falls on deaf ears. Like honestly, once Krause said what he said at the beginning of the year, that should have been checked right then.
Quickly.
Right then, the beginning of the year, that should have been checked. But it is what it is. It's just there's a reason the Bulls haven't won anything but the lottery a couple times since.
Are you right?
Yeah, like you said, Wilson, their fate was sealed once Jerry Krause made his statement. Like it at that point, especially after going through that grueling season and dealing with everything they had to deal with the Pippen situation and all that, to try to kind of save it on the back end, it's just exercising futility. It wasn't going to happen, and especially like I brought up, looking at it, if they could have salvaged it in some way and brought them back for the next year with that extended layoff with the lockout, they was in prime position to get another one. And can we imagine if they would have went 7 for 7? Like that's unprecedented, and a 4-peat like that, man. That would have just added to the legend and the mystique. But yeah, that was just it was very sloppily handled from the front office side. Like it seemed like they did everything they could in their power to to dismantle their team. And I wonder if Krause even believed that they could have pulled that last one out, and that's why he was so confident in being vocal about Phil's definitely not coming back no matter what. So it's just unanswerable questions and stuff we'll never know. But it's a shame how that was cut down prematurely. And I'm pretty sure those guys would have loved the opportunity to defend what they earned. Mike said, they can't win until we quit. So just give them the opportunity to go out on their shield instead of just breaking it up prematurely.
I mean, to me, honestly, it ended because the Bulls ain't want to pay guys, and they knew they had to pay a lot of guys and go on the luxury tax, and that's pretty much why the lockout came. Guys were demanding a lot of money at that time, and the Bulls have had a history ever since of not paying guys. Remember, like I remember during the Derrick Rose years, Nate Robinson gave him some good minutes. They ain't pay him. They let him go. John Lucas Ball, they ain't pay him. They took care of Derrick Rose, but a lot of guys they didn't take care of around him, which is why they ran him into the ground. And that's been a MO. You know what I'm saying? So it's just their business practices, man. It's just you. My thing is this, man. When you got a team that's winning, especially at a high rate, that Dynasty Bulls team was, you got to ride that. Like I said, you got to ride that till you lose, because you may never even get close to winning a championship ever again. And unfortunately, Jerry Krause didn't get that chance. He passed away. And even though he got fired years before, but he passed away. And as much as you're known for constructing that team, you're also known for breaking it up. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it's franchises out here that would have killed for that type of team. They'd be like, how much you want? Here's a blank check. You tell us. And like the Warriors, they've been in the luxury tax the last few years, man. Like, shoot. And they got a couple championships out the deal. And my thing is this: when you win in championships, you're getting more money because you're on TV more, you're more accessible, you're being marketed more, there's more playoff games. What is the problem? So I mean, like I said, I would love to know who these other owners are so they can talk and stop trying to hide all the time, but it just makes no sense, man. And it's no telling. Winning's not guaranteed, man. So you have the opportunity to seize that, man. You got to do everything you can to try to hold on to that. I think Mark Cuban made that mistake a few years ago when they won a championship. He let everybody go. And they just now started getting back in the flow where they got a nice core with Doncic and Porzingis where they can try to build it up and do the same thing. So I'm a firm believer. You got a chance to win. You got to milk that.
You know, Cardell, not to cut you off. Ask Sam Presti how he's feeling now from making that terrible.
Harden go. Yeah,
trading, and
don't get me started on OKC. Don't do it.
It was $4 million. That was it. If he had to give Harden $4 million more, he didn't want to go into the luxury tax.
But did he get that money? Kendrick.
Hold on. Was it him or was it the owner?
Well, hey,
sometimes the GM say the L for the owners.
Let me just say management. I'm sorry. We'll just say management. It's always known they saying Presti, you know, but yeah, it could have been. We don't know. But a prime example of what you were just talking about, Cardell, you know, hey, you have to, when it's good, pay these guys, do what you got to do to go into that luxury tax. Now, if it's just for, we making a playoff, Wizards, you know, it's not worth it, you know. But when you have a chance at something special, when you have a special possible dynasty coming, you know, hey, pay. Don't give it up. And look.
Why'd you bring that up?
I'm sorry, brother. Because during that time I was irritated then, as I'm still irritated now. You know, come on, you didn't want to go into the luxury tax with that team. After just making the finals,
and now they lost all of them.
Yeah, and paid Ibaka. If you had to do it all you had to do it all the way over again. You know what decision
you had 3 MVPs, homegrown, drafted, developed.
Yep.
Scott Brooks and they drafted them, developed, and that was the beginning of the end.
Yep.
You know, like
that right there was the beginning of the end. You're exactly right. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get you, Arnell, but when Cardell talked about
that's a tough one for me, man.
Yeah, when he talked about it. For me. Yeah. Oh, trust me, I'm with you, brother. I couldn't believe
it. The finals, you don't bring that team back. Like, what are you thinking about?
What were you thinking about?
Then now all those players not even on the roster. Ibaka's gone. Westbrook's gone. KD's gone. Harden's gone. Like that still makes no sense to me. $4 million.
Yeah.
It completely ruined their franchise. What could have been?
Exactly, man.
Bad teams do bad things.
Exactly. But fellas, want to thank all y'all for joining us the last few weeks, man. It's been fun.
Thank you, brother, for having me.
Thank you, man.
From now on, y'all guys get out of line. Just point them to the last dance, dog. You ain't even gotta say no more. Like, just go watch that and come back. And if they can't see the real, they call it lost causes. Leave it alone. So, appreciate it. We'll be posting content. I'll send you the video throughout the week, and
all right,
have fun, man.